Sean Marshall Anderson, and I'm gonna tear down our check valves at the lift station to see if they're working properly. Because if we're getting air in there, when that mag meter reads, it can't tell the difference between a half full pipe and pipe. If it senses movement through the pipe, it assumes the pipe is full. So after we get those taken apart and see if we're backflowing, which I think we might be, he's gonna come back out and recalibrate our meter to see, because
Something new from the
no,
project?
1993, no,
Nothing green.
no. We put new pumps in, but I don't know who would have done it, but I'm sure nobody's torn them down since they were put in. I mean, I don't know anyone that has, they're in that valve vault. There's two check valves in that vault next to the lift station, so hopefully gonna do that tomorrow. And then under streets, we have one tree at 210 East County line that needs to be removed for the water project. I've spoken with the homeowners, they're glad it's dying. They've been trying to hack on it, some themselves, but Ron Hammock will remove it and stump for $350. It's the only one in the way down through there. And then we replaced 2 damaged stop signs under building, issued 1 building permit, had 3 building permit inquiries, 2 zoning inquiries. 1 building had 1 inspection. Our September census report's complete and has been submitted, and then that collapsed barn down there at 505 South Central. I don't know if you've noticed it, when I was in contact with the county about, it has been demolished, and they're cleaning it up. The barn's gone, but now they're still cleaning up some other stuff down through there. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions about anything.
Gates down at the ballpark.
They called the locate tickets in, so I'm hoping they're still gonna be here this week. I was gonna call them tomorrow, but they're done, and the locate tickets just got completed, so they'll be, hopefully they're bringing them in this week.
Thank you.
Find out tomorrow.
Did someone make a motion for approval to remove that tree?
Make a motion to approve removal of the tree.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Proceed with that, Andy. All right. Thank you. Murray's not with us tonight, so. Yeah, and we'll hear from our fire chief, Gary Liston. Gary?
I got some papers it's coming your way, so I'll wait till everybody gets it and
Okay.
I'll remind the council that again our target date to go in service is Thursday, December the 28th at midnight. In order for that to happen, some things are going to have to happen. So I think it's doable. It's just that we're going to have to jump through some hoops here. One being the EMS contract. I have started working on run cards for the town. Run cards are what are used for when emergencies called in to dispatch, so they don't have to guess. They have what engines are responding and whatever. And then some of those that they've asked me to go 30 stations deep, which will be a chore, but it can be done. And I need to get those to the county by Wednesday, November the 1st. They said I could have a little bit of lead time there, maybe up around the 7th, but they would like to have them around November the 1st. Still working on getting recognized by the state, getting our FDID number back from the state, which is 29002. I'm almost ready to resubmit that spreadsheet. I had to get some information from the different members and enter into that data into that spreadsheet. So I'm getting ready to resubmit that to the state. I've started investigating what it's going to take to get the Department of 501c3 designation through the state. I know there's some cost to that, but again, that will help us when we go start trying to get grant money.
But Jerry, the fire department always ran under ours. Why wouldn't you still do that?
What's that?
Under the town's 501c3?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah,
So, and that's, I didn't know that, to be honest with you.
501c3, that's our tax.
Okay, well then that makes it easier.
yeah, they ran under our.
Okay, well then that makes it easier on my end. That's something I don't have to worry about and paperwork wise and stuff, so, thank you. One thing that I've kind of pushed back on the back burner, because it's really not that important until we get the doors open, is again, through the state EMS commission, we need to designate this department as a BLS non-transport department. But I've kind of pushed that back because I've got to get some other things settled in, so I can put into that paperwork to send to the state. And then I don't want to, submit something and it's not complete. We're going to be meeting next Thursday is our first, what I call the organizational meeting. We're going to be meeting at the station at 7 p.m. on the 19th. Robin, I saw the email that you sent out regarding the insurance through Walker and Associates. Is that Walker and Associates on the accident sickness proposal? I'll be honest with you, I haven't really had that time, but I need to go through that. And
There was just a slight price difference, so I went ahead and just told
signed
her
it?
to go with the one that was higher. I mean,
Okay.
it was a little bit better. The only difference was, should something happen, the weekly amount that the firefighter would get, it was almost double, and the premium, it only raised the premium like $200 and something.
Okay.
So I just went ahead and signed that one, and
Okay.
I mean, we can back the truck up if we have to, but I think
Okay.
that's probably the better deal.
On my side, I've been checking with the county to see if the radios of the ownership switch has happened, and it hasn't. So that's something that, again, we need to work on. I think the last meeting I mentioned the mobile data terminals for the engine and the squad. Something that we will have, as long as it's sitting in the station, it's connected to Wi-Fi, but if we go out the station, we'll need air cards in those, and again, there's a cost associated with that. And Andy just informed me tonight that he thinks you like one stand.
Yeah, I have one stand.
Okay,
over there.
that will help us mount that unit in the truck.
You have a cost on the air cards.
I haven't done that yet. My guess that'll be like through Verizon or something like that. Still working on getting defibrillators through either the Cardiac Science or Riverview Hospital Foundations. If we can make that happen, or if I can make that happen, or the members down there, that's going to save the town some money there also. So that'll, anytime we can get equipment into the town, that helps everybody. Our membership numbers are still at 11 members. Okay, this is where I'm going to ask the town for permission to go out and get some quotes. One, we need to have the pump on the engine pump test certification. There's a lot of companies out there that do it, and I'm going to try to find a mobile company that will come to the town and be able to do the pump test at the station. I don't know what that will cost, but I'd like to get a quote and come back to you at the next meeting with that. I need to, and Robin, I don't know, we haven't spoken, but did you ever get the PMs, the bill for that?
Yes, and I paid him, and I put copies of everything in your
Okay,
file up
okay.
here, so.
I need, we know that on the engine, there was 2 sealed beam bulbs out in the back, and we also have a halogen bulb, and I need to get those replaced. So I'll get quotes on those and bring that back to you. The squad's a little different. That mini pumper that sits down there hasn't been in service for about 3 years, according to records, and so we need to look at replacing the tires on it before we put it in service. It has an oil leak, and the clutch needs adjusted on it. I would like to get a quote for that. Where would you like me to take that? Or at least, is there anybody here local that?
We do the tires at RT.
Okay.
We get state bid tires. I mean,
Okay.
that's where I got the tires for our rescue.
I know a lot of fire equipment goes to Hares, their truck place out on east of Noblesville. Is that where you want me to?
So where's the oil leak at?
On the on the passenger side
Valve cover,
bow cover.
we'll just change it. They'll do it at the garage.
So,
Yeah.
and like I said, the clutch needs to be adjusted too, so,
But I've got, I can call Bear, I can get you the tire price too if you want, because I've got a set of rims for that truck.
okay.
Because those tires are 16.5s and they're a fortune. We can convert it to standard 16-inch tires.
Okay.
I wanna say the ones on the rescue were, I don't know, right around $800 and some dollars, $900 for 6.
Okay.
But
So R&T, Noblesville, or did you go Tipton?
either one, but we
Okay.
gotta count both, but
Okay.
I just call Tipton.
And then, the second thing I passed around to you was the reflective, striping on the back. There is a new NFPA, 1901 that's been put into effect since that engine was built. So I'd like to get a quote. We won't have the work done, but just come back to you with a quote on renumbering that engine, because everything on it's 56. And also look at the putting that reflective striping on the back of it. And I'd like to go local. I'd like to see what Jerry Kelly would do, or, yeah,
He lettered it originally.
yes.
He did the gold on there and
Yes,
stuff.
so I'd like to see what he would charge us to do those two items.
Be fine here.
Okay. And then the last thing, and it's not on your list, right before the Earth Festival, Fred knows about this, they put up the rear station door next to the small service door, and when the door was coming down, something popped and the metal skin on the outside of the door separated from the lower panel. I first thought maybe the door had been hit, but that wasn't the case. But this,
Find out about a warranty on that, because that was replaced during the tornado, or part of it was.
okay, well, something has, like I said, the skin on that lower panel has separated from the door, and it's kind of, so water can get down into that, and we just need to look at getting that, either see if the door can be fixed, and if it can, how much it would cost, or just replacing the panel.
Who does our door work?
North side usually.
Okay.
All right. So I'll call and have somebody come and look at that. And is that down there on the north side of 465 out there?
They're in Noblesville.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they did move, yeah. But we'd have to look. I think they replaced that or part of it. It might have been even the whole door is after the tornado.
Okay. Like I said, I thought it looked like maybe we thought the door had been hit, but it wasn't. It's just whenever they were making some deliveries with some carts, and when the door was coming down, something popped, and I don't know, something, it's just like I say, the skin separated. So that's all I have, unless you've got some questions.
I have
It's
something for the council regarding the fire department. We have money in repairs and maintenance appropriated already. Does he really need to like get quotes for light bulbs and stuff like that? I mean,
I'd like to set some kind of budget, or, give him some kind of,
like a month
go ahead or
whatever.
whatever, just to go ahead and get, we're trying to get this department up and running, and he's, battling the deadline here, and, every time he has to bring a quote back to us, it's just delaying getting started. These are things we have to have.
Exactly.
well, on that pump test, I've heard it's anywhere from $500 to $1,000. But I don't
But
know.
it's gotta be tested.
And that's so that you'll maintain your ISO rating too in the town. So,
We've got an accountant happening to for
okay,
automotive stuff too.
that's good to know. Robin, what do you need on that? If I go get the sealed beam, do you just need a receipt?
Yeah.
Okay. Okey-doke. Thanks.
Are you gonna set a dollar amount, you think, or?
Just, I don't know if we need, do you want to set a dollar amount, or just give him approval to purchase what he needs, and just, if it's something major, just make sure that you have the funds available.
That's what I would think. I mean, it's already been appropriated, so
Yeah,
it's
I mean-
already been approved.
I don't think setting a dollar amount would.
It's kind of hard to set a dollar amount on some of that stuff, like you said, you don't know what, some of the
Well,
stuff
and most
costs.
of it's specialized, and it,
Exactly.
Just
So.
check
Okay, I'll do that. I'll just call you before will give me a price, and I'll just call you and you tell me if you have it.
Smaller stuff, I mean, that's no problem.
Well, that's a
Fine
fund
stuff.
report, that's not an appropriation report, so you don't have that. I think it's probably at least got, at least 8,000.
That'd help you out a little bit there, you know, just to get this stuff and go ahead and get taken care
Spend
of.
some time on it, yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yep, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to old business. We have Jonathan Mullen with some Triad and Associates tonight. He's here to come and speak to us.
Good evening.
Thanks.
Tried to mention, my name's Jonathan Mullen, Triad, I'm an engineer. And I'm here to discuss the community crossing grant application. We submitted on behalf of the town of Atlanta a grant application to the Indiana Department of Transportation. And what that is it's a program that allows small communities that are 20,000 or less to do road infrastructure, roads, and drainage improvements where the state pays 75% and the town pays 25%. The awards came out a few weeks ago and Atlanta was not chosen. The state won't talk to me, so Fred called and they said that one of the pieces of the application was not submitted, which was the maps. And when I went and pulled the application back up, there was a file called maps. Unfortunately, it had been overwritten. There are 5 files. There's an application file. There's a funding source file that comes from the town clerk. There is an estimate file. There is a file that for the asset management, which is how your roads rate, and then a map file for showing in that what the town is planning to do. When I opened the file, it had been overwritten with the asset management file. So they had 2 asset management files. I accept full responsibility for the mistake. I apologize to the board, Andy, and the residents. The next opportunity for this grant will be July 2018. And I apologize to Robin and Andy. Andy had put a lot of work into this. So.
Yeah, Jonathan, we appreciate that.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank you.
you coming and explaining that to us, so that we're aware. Obviously, we were all disappointed that we didn't, receive the grant. Surrounding towns did, but, none of us are perfect. And that happens.
I feel very bad for the town because this community was one I thought, as a first-time applicant, should have gotten a little money.
One question I have, Jonathan, that on this next round, do you know, will the money be the same, or is it going to be reduced?
Oh, no, it's the program's in place up to 2023. So, towns under 20,000 are still eligible for the 75-25 program. And actually next year, they had about 140 million that they dispersed this year throughout the state, and they have 190 million next year. So, and applicants, first-time applicants do get, are put first in their review, and then second-time applicants come in. We had a couple of communities that got funded last year and also got funded this year.
Okay. Do you know when that deadline is for next year?
Well,
Filing
the
deadline?
state's budget starts on July 1st.
Okay.
We're actually in 2018 state budget year, so it'll be in 2019, and it's shortly after July 1st that they announce the community crossing grant application period.
But I mean, our application deadline, is there a application deadline?
Yes, there will be an application
Do we
done.
know that date yet?
Not yet. They'll announce it next year,
Okay.
probably around July, after July 1st.
Okay. Okay.
I won't have more money
Yeah.
to apply.
So, thank you for coming tonight, sharing that
Thanks.
with us.
And I apologize again.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the next order of old business, and it's an engagement letter from our attorney.
That was what he talked to us about,
Fred,
Right.
you guys try this.
oh, okay, you wanted, I don't care.
Now, let's deal with this.
That's what, the one that Megan talked to us about, where his firm is, joining with those other firms to, basically sue the largest opioid manufacturer, and it's at no cost to the town. So,
You should have a copy of this in front of you. We need approval tonight to proceed with this.
Are we gonna be able to, at his, when he was here and presented this, he was talking about having to have basically some documentation or facts that we have an opioid problem here and that there's, information and record of issues involving that. Are we gonna,
I think that would have to come from the sheriff's department, I mean, if they want.
yeah, I mean.
I don't look
when
for
he was-
much to come back to the town of Atlanta, but, you know, if it does,
Yeah.
it's basically free money.
Yeah. I just didn't know if we, had anything that we could actually contribute to him. I know when he was here, he said something about talking to Andy and getting with you on some issues, things, and it's like, we don't have any documentation of any type of DL, ALS runs and things like that, and arrests and whatnot, but through the sheriff's department. And I don't know how far they're going back
Yeah,
on this.
that remains to be seen too, I don't know either. It's just really, if it happens, it's free money, if it doesn't, it doesn't.
I guess if we can contribute to the cause, I guess I'll make a motion that we go ahead and, accept this.
Okay, do I hear a second? All in favor?
Client pays 30%.
They give 30% of any of these recovered monies.
Now, agrees to compensate the attorney 30%. Page 2 of 4, last paragraph.
Okay, we'll move on to the next order of business, which is pay application number 1. It's part of our water project.
Yes, sir, Larry Howard, Trident Associates, I'm project manager. On that, it's basically for material purchased and stored on site. It's no real work, I mean, there will be another payout coming, but it's pretty much exactly for products on site, either at the maintenance building or at the water plant.
Like sand and there's materials and
Yeah,
stuff.
all the materials here, hydrants came today, so, and the shipping containers out there have all the valves in them, meter, or the riser boxes, everything. I mean, I was here when the semi dropped it off, and then all the pipe, there's like 17,800 feet of pipe.
In which case, you should have 4 copies, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
Please, so, and this is for $49,896.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You guys will keep 2 for your records, and I'll take 2. One will go back to the contractor for their records, and one will be for our records.
Did I need to sign? Okay.
I guess you need a motion.
Do I hear a motion that we approve this first pay request? $49,896.
I'll make a motion, we approve Watson's pay request for materials.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
they get 30% of anything that would come in.
Yeah, but it says the client agrees to compensate the attorneys
I think that would be
30%.
Of whatever would be based on whatever would come in.
Contingent upon prevailing. It
Yeah.
says contingent upon prevailing, means they
So it's
gotta win.
like you don't pay unless they win,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, that contingent upon prevailing.
So if the town gets $100 out of it, they get 30%.
Whatever the sum is, remember 30%.
Okay, Robin, here's your 2 copies. Okay, we'll move on to the next order of business, and that is you should all have received a copy of the county's animal control ordinance. I know this has been a topic in the past, and I've had some issues personally with a resident here in town involving barking dogs. I did call the sheriff's department, and I know currently we do not have jurisdiction. They do not have jurisdiction due to our local ordinance covering animals. So I asked for a copy of this for us to review and to consider adopting this ordinance to the county. And in so doing, Hamilton County would then be able to enforce these ordinances, just like they do the other ordinances here in town. If we had a citizen complaint, they could call 911, they could call dispatch, and the animal control officer could come to town and do what he needs to do. This particular person that I was talking to, I've talked to a couple of different times, citizen, and very disgruntled. I could hear the dogs barking in the background over our phone conversation. And I had to agree with him. I said, I can hear it. You don't have to tell me. And I reached out to Ryan Horine, and Ryan did dispatch a deputy up here. Although the deputy could not write a ticket, he did
Yes, we do.
try to reach that property owner and just, share with them the problem with the animals. So, I guess I said all that to say this. I would like for us to consider adopting this. It doesn't have to be tonight. If you want to read through it, think on it, but I do want to bring it up as discussion. I know our animal control officer has been here, and we spoke with him several months back. We do have a kennel here in town
Yeah, they reduced more to that.
that,
It's already been approved.
yeah, if he were to get an animal, he could take that to the kennel and save us a lot of money. Currently, if you take an animal to the Humane Society, it is expensive. I'm not sure the exact amount, but
I know it's going up to over 200 next year, like
It is.
it's 215 or 205 or something,
So-
because cats are more expensive than dogs.
No, he was gonna check into that. When he was here, he mentioned something about the cost, and if he took it to there from the town, if we were gonna get billed for it. Have we heard anything back on that as to whether or not they're gonna waive that fee since they are our police department under contract?
I have not heard anything, John, back from that. This ordinance is It's very long, there's a lot of reading here. And, talks about,
It does have a public nuisance that you're referring to in there.
yeah, it does, there is a paragraph about barking dogs. And that did obviously catch my eye. And also it talks about vicious animals. It talks, yes,
When you're talking in this ordinance about a public nuisance, does that include everything or just the dogs or cats?
Animals.
animals, there's
Just
also,
animals.
yeah, there's also a paragraph in here that,
Do we have a present ordinance now, or is, we do not, or?
we do have. We have an ordinance. The issue is this: the county cannot enforce that ordinance.
Okay,
Because
I understand.
it's a local ordinance, and we have to depend upon our code enforcement officer to do that. And, that gets tricky. It's not as, yes, it is enforceable, but it's not like a sheriff's deputy rolling up to your door and coming in uniform and saying, hey, you either quieten your dog down or we're gonna issue you
I just want,
a ticket.
we brought up, public nuisance in that
Mhm.
with animals, that's just, this was strictly animals. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
Now, if Manny said anything about how this would affect our ordinances that are on the book as to whether or not we just do not enforce our ordinances? If we were to adopt this, our ordinances could stay on the books as a local ordinance?
Didn't, Deputy Sandberg said we would have to rescind.
Every one of our ordinances?
Our animal ordinances.
No, I think he just said you had to rescind our ordinance. He said we will not participate in the
Yeah,
county ordinance.
yeah.
But we can keep our ordinances on the book, and then
Mhm.
if we wanted our code enforcement officer to do it, we could still have him to go out and enforce local that the county won't.
I guess my goal is to be able to have the means for the sheriff's department to deal with these issues versus us trying to deal with them.
And I've had that same resident on my porch on Sunday afternoons talking about the barking dog too.
And he's got a legitimate
He does,
right.
and I'm just, it's embarrassing.
It
It's
is.
embarrassing. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
And,
So I take this as they know.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the nuisance, I don't know if that's there's a state statute pertaining to that, but, animals running at large is under a state statute. They couldn't enforce picking up stray animals and dogs running at large because that's a state statute. But like I say, the nuisance as far as barking animals and that type of thing, dogs and whatnot, I don't think there's a state statute on that one, so they couldn't do anything.
I guess the only reason I was asking about the nuisance is that for just animals, or loud music, or
Mhm.
ordinances and stuff like that.
Well, not only we have barking dog problems, but we have a severe cat problem in my opinion. And, it's hard to catch a cat. Cats come up on your porch and urinate all over your indoor-outdoor carpet. You got any swings or cushions, they urinate on it. You can't get cat urine out of the carpet. And I'm talking about feral cats. I'm not talking about somebody's house cat pet, They're just running everywhere. And I see 8, 9, 10 of them every day where I live. I put out traps. I catch these cats. I've had 3 neighbors now. I'm not mentioning no names, but all 3 have been to my door and called me everything but a white man, put it frankly. One of them actually had their daughter come up on my cage on my property and release the cat before I could get to it. So, I'm aware that there is a severe cat problem. And I'm in agreement with Fred. I really would like to see some professional help. I just don't think we're equipped to go around, and I don't want to see Murray going around here trying to catch cats and dogs, There's probably a time and place for that. But it's just really getting out of hand. Maybe some Indians aren't bothered by feral cats, but where I'm at, my location, and they're really, really bad. It's severe.
And there's a section that addresses that totally. And it's titled a public nuisance.
Yeah.
Found at large damaging the property of anyone other than the owner. It states, it's vicious, it attacks without provocation, and then this. Excessively makes disturbing noises, including but not limited to continued and repeated howling, barking, whining, and other utterances causing unreasonable disturbances. And I'll stop there. The next line is creates unsanitary conditions or offensive and objectionable odors in enclosures or surroundings. So it does address.
Well, with the feral cats, he said he would sit out and, keep an eye on who's feeding them.
The only thing about a feral cat colony, they just
Keep
appoint
multiplying.
somebody to maintain them and make sure that they're caught and spayed and neutered and, you know, and that they're fed. But they really are wild animals that run large. That's what he was saying. You can't really control a feral cat colony. That's a bad thing about cats. That's what he was saying. You know, he was saying he could trap them and transport them and, you know, get rid of them and everything because they are considered a wild animal. Yeah, I'd like to review this a little more and have Manny to see how it affects our local ordinances and find out from that officer, the animal control officer that was here, I forget his name, about what it would, you know, if he started transporting down there, if it's gonna cost us every time, because if so, we need to have some kind of limit or something on our order. I mean, somebody started complaining, you know, the cat has a litter of kittens, and there's 6 or 8 of them down there, and they're $200 and some a pop. You know, it bankrupts the town getting rid of cats.
Does anyone know what, if a person was interested in becoming a breeder or, you know, there's a permit required. Do anybody know what
For
that permit
dogs.
costs?
It's like $5.
Oh, just very insignificant amount of money
Does the public, can we get a copy of the ordinance or?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure can. Sure can.
And this ordinance here only addresses animals. This is an animal control ordinance, so that nuisance and stuff you're referring to, there's other ordinances that address that, but this is just strictly for animals.
All right.
Give you a
We're
copy
all
of
good
that.
to get that.
We'll get you one.
Right here. Get you a copy of that. Yeah, probably get you a copy after the meeting. And anyone else like one as well. Okay, so we'll table this to the next meeting. And, if you would like, we can try to get the animal control officer here again to answer any questions that anyone may have. All right, is there any other old business tonight?
We got the contract, trash contracts on this one.
Yeah, I had that up there. Our trash contract expires this year. We have the, option to extend it for 1 more year, and I already talked to, Glenn Howard at Republic and told him that I was gonna suggest to our council that we go ahead and do that, just extend it for another year. And he said that would make his life so much easier if we,
That's what we did last time.
yeah, that way we don't have to put it up for bid for another year and nothing changes.
Extend it for same
Yeah, exactly.
same rates, same plan, everything,
Yeah.
trash, big trash, first trash pickup days and all that.
No, for that.
I make a motion, we just extend it for another year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have a question about that.
Yep.
Did they consider yesterday a holiday? Are we gonna be a day late this week?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
don't know.
Yeah.
They will be. I'd still put my trash out on Friday because I done that.
You
one
never
time,
know.
And they came.
Because it wasn't a holiday for us, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
some.
that's a good question.
The post office, the banks were all closed on
Yeah, I
Columbus
know.
Day, so,
County offices were open.
yeah, so I,
So we're-
Yeah, they took that one from us.
Yeah.
They picked up mine in Nobles all the same day.
Did
They
they?
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Republic?
put it out Friday.
I'd put
Yeah,
it out
put
on
it out,
Friday.
put it out.
You never know.
All right.
They don't think that they still.
They're up there on me now.
Okay.
Okay, we talked about the current contract. I wrote myself a note too. The Endeavor, I sent them an invoice on August 3rd for the, to compensate us for the surface restoration,
Did you send,
and they did not,
did you send Danny's and the other one?
yes.
Okay.
It was like, and they have not responded, so I sent Matt Emery an email and asked him to please get it into the right hands, and he has not responded, so they owe us $7,280.
Which is less than we thought it was gonna be, because the invoice for the dirt work ended up being less significantly.
So I don't know if we want Mandy to send them a letter,
We still have
We
their
have- Do we
bond.
have their bond?
Yeah, it's $100,000.
And Matt was the one that was the head of that project.
Well, Jay was his boss, but Matt was the
Project manager
super-
or
the
supervisor.
project manager here on site. And I told Robin, I said, have Mandy send them a letter and tell them if they don't pay it, we're gonna lay claim against their bond.
We
That's
need,
the purpose of the bond.
Yeah, you know, they were told, they were given the deadlines and the dates. It wasn't completed, and through a conversation I had with them, they held money back from CSU because of this, so they need to pay.
What's the last correspondence you had with them, Robin?
Last week.
well, I sent, correspondence last week, but
And
I
no
don't
reply?
know, no.
No reply. Okay, I would be in agreement to have our attorney send them a letter.
let them know we're gonna go after the bond.
Yeah.
Get the bond if they don't.
That would get their attention.
That's $7,000. I mean,
Mhm.
It's a lot of money for.
it is. Any other old business tonight from the floor? I don't know if this is under old business, but I'm gonna make it old business. The fire territory. I had a meeting with Chris Miller yesterday morning. And met with her for about an hour. Wasn't a real productive meeting. I was given a lot of figures and a couple of printouts that really didn't make any sense to me at all.
You're kidding,
Yeah,
come on.
I walked away feeling, I don't know how I felt, but it was, she's good at what she does.
You're better than me, my feeling would have been rage.
Yeah, well, I'm not a rageful person.
I know.
And so I did listen. I'm a good listener, I feel. But we didn't accomplish much. I do think she couldn't address any of the equipment issues because said she didn't know. That was between, that was her fire chief. So I think our next course of action there is having Jerry and Jeff sit down and go over items that we feel are ours and theirs, and I know, Jerry, you've looked for a list, an inventory list.
I have the one that was done after
Yeah.
everything came back, but I've been told there's one that was done before the divorce, and I'd like to get my hands on that one.
Yes, that's the one that's very important. And are you familiar with Hearst tools? Are there Hearst tools on our engine? Okay.
But here's the problem,
I think they
we
were-
had them before.
Yeah, they were there before from what
They
I
were.
understood.
They were there before, and they upgraded the tools on our engine out of territory money. So, they're ours,
So,
you know, that,
right, her statement then that,
Yeah.
that she purchased those for that engine is correct then?
yeah, but she didn't purchase them, the territory did.
Well.
It was voted on, and they were to replace the tools we already owned.
And I think that's where the whole issue is. She, being the provider unit, feels that it's hers, the territory. Anything the territory purchased is,
But it's
she
not.
purchased.
But she didn't, the board did, and that's the kicker of it, you know.
And, there are, she did share with me that there's a room full of documents, upstairs that are waiting for review.
I'm sure there is.
That, our financial person was supposed to look at and hasn't. So, I shared,
Financial
I
person.
shared a couple documents with Robin, and Robin had never seen those documents before,
The
so
one I had seen in an Excel spreadsheet, the short little one, the other one.
I couldn't make sense of it. But anyway, that's how my meeting went.
I was kinda hoping that it would've been a productive meeting, but it sounds like it.
Well, it's pretty easy to get along with, but it, I couldn't wrap my head around any of it, really. She, I said that she's,
When do you want to try to have this other meeting?
as soon as possible. Another thing that we need to think about as a council, and, that's our ALS service for 2018. Chris has drew up a fire protection agreement for 18, and, unfortunately, it's more money than it was
Imagine.
in 2017.
But we're not gonna need fire protection.
No, but the majority of our runs are ALS runs, so that's where she is gauging her
How much more money we talking about?
$3,000. Went from 28 and some change to
Jerry, did you
31,000.
find out anything about another municipality or texting entity
I think there may
being
be,
able to charge another one for services? Did you see anything on that?
Approach Cicero.
yeah,
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
again, we're back to kind of where we were a year ago. And personally, I don't want to be the 11th hour trying to
Hammer out an agreement.
hammer out an agreement and be sitting down in front of the commissioners again, being threatened to.
Well, if she's raising it, how much is it for this, for the SEAL ambulance service?
About 300,000.
I can't answer that, Jody.
I can, that's that's what, not White River, but who's next to White River?
Wayne?
And Wayne had their.
They were under a contract to
For
Seals.
298,000.
Yeah.
Seals raised it to like 348, and she agreed to it, and then they said they didn't wanna do it, that's how they struck the whole deal with Noblesville.
So back to your question, Jerry, I mean, if that needs to be the four of us again sitting down quickly, because you're under a deadline with these run cards and all that.
Well, I also read those minutes from those commissioners' meetings.
Yes.
And that was the sticking point back then is because, you had to have that, or the sheriff wasn't gonna come bring his people into town, so we're gonna have to hammer it out some way. I don't know what other entities we can approach. Approach the one to the south, and there's a connection there.
There is, and she was shared that with me very openly, that they have a great relationship. I have a great relationship with Cicero, well, I'm sure.
Didn't used to be that way.
No, but it is now. And like I said, it was, I'm glad I went. But,
And I thank you for doing that. I mean, I really do.
It was a frustrating time for me. I said she's sharp, and she's got the numbers.
Making grass.
Anyway. Again, that's, I would like by the end of this month to have something resolved. There was, Jerry, as you shared with me, there are emails that were circulated to the commissioners that we had yet to sign a contract. I made a phone call to Commissioner Airbrandt, made him aware that I had a meeting set up with Chris, that we are trying to, you know, meet.
I was asked Friday if that meeting was gonna happen. I told the individual that it was going to happen, and,
So they're well aware of where we sit. Unfortunately, we're, I don't know. As hard as you're working, Gary, and we're trying to, you know, get the fire side taken care of. We still have the LS piece to work through.
She's required, as far as the EMS service, she's required to, because we're in the district, they have to come out.
well, I thought I had found that answer.
I was told that, you know.
Yeah, I actually, and I think I shared that with Robin and Fred through an email, but I thought I had found under Township Volunteer Fire Departments, matter of fact, I may have that with me. I was hoping I'd found it, but then Manny said that was only part of the statute that I found. But basically, it's under Indiana Code 36.8.13.3. It just says the executive of a township, with the approval of the legislative body, which would be her board, may do the following. It says the legislative body of a municipality adopts an ordinance to have the township provide the services without a contract. Which I thought, man, I found the answer, right, you know, right there. And then it says the township legislative body then passes a resolution approving the township provision of the services without contracts to the municipality. But then I sent that to Manny, and Manny said, no, that wasn't the case, because that was only part of the statute. But I thought I had found it, and I'll share that with everybody. There's only one of them there, but it's, I'd hope so. And it didn't say shall, it just said may. And, you know, shall would have said, you know, we would have had to do it, but it says may in there. But Manny says that's not the case. That's, like I said, it's only part of the statute. Now, I've asked him to provide the other part of the statute. So.
The best part is we pay township taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that Fred and I talked about, was that, you know, the people in this town are her constituents. You know, because we are part of the township.
I'd like to know how's come they're doing it for White River, but they won't do it for Atlanta. They're running out there without
They're getting paid
contract.
$100,000 a.
No.
No, because she has a contract with Cicero.
Yeah, she has a Jackson dropped their contract out there. Cicero picked it up, but they also, Cicero used to provide that service for $1 a year.
Yep.
And then it changed, and then now she pays over $100,000, that's what I heard.
117, I think.
To Cicero,
To Cicero.
To Cicero.
but they back up Cicero, so they run out there when Cicero's busy.
Pardon?
They run out there when Cicero's.
And that's
on
part of the
their
run cards.
That's a run card.
Yeah.
And before that took place, that $100,000 contract with Cicero, they were running out there without contract. I was sitting
There
on the
was a
board when it
contract
happened.
with them also, but I don't know how much it was.
Not
No, we're saying,
with, no,
he's saying
I'm
the
talking
fire
about
territory
Jackson.
was running to
Oh,
White River.
okay, I see what you're saying.
For just
We
the-
had a contract with them, White River said we're not paying it, and
For
they
just the
dropped
run
it, and
money.
we continue to run out there for the run money.
I see what you're saying.
And they bill the
non-reciprocating fee.
non-reciprocating fee, which goes to the resident.
We gotta figure out, like I say, we'll continue to look at, I guess, whatever other options there is. One might be looking north, but I don't know. We tried that last year, and I think that fell through also at the last minute, using Cicero Township. But there was no ALS there. It was all BLS, basic life support. So. And I think we've talked about this in the past, with the amount of runs that this town has, I don't think we, the town, can afford to put an ambulance down there with 30 runs a year. So,
All right, more to come on that. Okay, we'll move on to new business, unless there's any more discussion on old business.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know where this falls under old or new. My name's Abby Roby. We were curious as to what is your plan for your baseball fields going on out there. We didn't know if you still have a contract with Diamondbacks, if what's going on.
I can update you on that. At our last meeting, this council voted to terminate the contract with Diamondbacks. Currently, we have not made any other decisions moving forward. And that's something, again, I was going to bring up this evening to our council.
Yeah, because Manny needs to have us okay that, rather than say that, so.
They have yet to receive their letter, but the letter has been drawn up by our attorney. So once that happens, and depending on their response, this council will need to make a decision on whether we will move forward with them or move forward with it in another direction.
Is there another direction are you open to other directions? I'm
Possibly,
curious.
yes.
Okay.
I am, absolutely,
I
100%.
know we have a council member that is.
Okay.
I like to think that I'm open-minded.
Is that to keep it local is my question. Reside in Cicero. Our son currently plays baseball, and my husband grew up here in town
Okay.
and wants to see his son play on the field. So, I mean, his parents helped. I'm sure you know
What's
Tone
your
and Roy
name?
Roby.
Yeah,
Tone
Ray,
and Roy.
sure. Didn't recognize him. It's all right, you've grown up.
He's letting me do the talking.
That's fine.
That's how it goes.
Yeah.
So we're just curious of what the options are. Are you looking for,
What kind of organization are you with or
we're
referring to?
deciding what we're gonna be doing, if we're going to be starting our own organization, and we didn't know what the options were available to the field.
You know, what I have in mind, in my opinion, and what I want to see out there is a recreational type organization where the kids of this community can play ball out there again. Right now, we don't have that. So these kids here will never get to play on their own diamond.
Right,
And, you know, it's a community diamond that was built by a lot of residents of this community.
right.
And I want to see that, and not that, you know, there couldn't be a traveling team or something out there, but, you know, in coordination with a rec team for the kids of this community to play and stuff out there.
Well, I
That's what I
know
wanna
from
see.
our experience with the organization in Cicero, my son cannot play with them due to his age. So we're limited on what we can do, which is why we've looked elsewhere. We want to stay in Hamilton County. So this past year, we went to Westville so he could play. He's just at an age level where he can't play with his group, his grade level, which isn't fair to him to be put down lower with younger kids who aren't at his level. So that's where we're at. We're trying, I understand you want to keep it local, but if most of the Atlanta kids go to the Hamilton Heights organization.
Well, I'm not meaning just for Atlanta kids only. I know that Arcadia and Cicero, one time they had joined an organization where the kids could go to each, you know, whatever town they wanted to play in. I'm all for that. I just want a rec team that where these kids from this community can play well.
From
with-
this area.
With this area, wherever. You know, if they played Cicero or they played, you know, Long Grove used to be out there and all of them. That's what I want to see, just so these kids in this community can have a place to play. With this organization, they're just taking us for a ride as far as I'm concerned, because they have nothing, as far as I'm concerned, as far as return back to this town. And our kids have suffered from it because of this, and they're an outside organization that don't really care about it, as far as I'm concerned, from what I'm seeing down there. And all the issues that we have down there, we voted